Hey guys, so it's Miss Sailor. So it is Wednesday. This is going to be your third class. We are going to be talking about the first Americans or Pre-Columbia Era. Just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about what's going on here. So, globalization, the ever-increasing interconnectedness of the world. It's not just a new phenomenon. It is accelerated, of course, when Western Europeans discover the riches of the East. This is during the Crusades, 1095-1291. Europeans developed this appetite for spices, silk, porcelain from China, sugar, and other luxury items that come from the East. This creates the Silk Road. The Silk Road it's very long, though. It's over land. It's very dangerous. There's no promise that the materials will arrive. So Europeans, they're looking for a more efficient way to get it to them quicker. So they're looking for routes over water. So in the pursuit of Asia, obviously 15th century traders encountered the New World populated by millions. They mistakenly think they reached the East Indies. These explorers call the inhabitants Indians by mistake. So, then you also have West Africa, a diverse and rich area. It enters the stage as other nations exploit its slave trade and brought its people to the New World in chains. As you can see from the thing on the screen, we have the land bridge. Some scholars believe that between 9 and 15,000 years ago, a land bridge existed between Asia and North America. The first inhabitants of what would be named the Americas migrated across the bridge in search of food. They were likely following megafauna, for food. So they're hunting food. When the glaciers melted, water actually engulfed the land bridge, and the Bering Strait is formed. Understand that later settlers came by boat across the narrow strait. The fact that Asians and American Indians share genetic markers on Y chromosome leads credibility to this migration theory. So they begin moving southward, and the settlers eventually began populating North and South America, creating unique cultures. But whatever the place of their origin and time of the arrival, the first peoples in the Western Hemisphere spread and established many new cultures and communities. So this is also the time that humans appear to begin domesticating plants and animals in the Americas. Adding agriculture as a means of sustenance to hunting. You can see from this example that we have how even the animals that they're hunting began to change. On the left, you have spearheads. They're used to hunt megafauna and very large game. And then on the right, you begin to see smaller arrowheads that have emerged over time because they're hunting smaller animals. They're hunting deer and rabbits. So the size is no longer necessary for large spearheads when you can use smaller arrowheads for smaller game. So, as the agricultural revolution happens, within the nomadic lifestyles, a great shift happened to a sedentary way of life. A more abundant and reliable food supply brought population growth and a more developed way of life. So this is all rapidly changing as they begin to live more in place instead of moving and being nomadic. This is nowhere more apparent than in Mesoamerica. In the high altitudes, especially of Mexico and Peru, you have the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Incas, and others that build great empires and monumental structures that still exist to this day. It's supported by large agriculture and far-flung commerce. Mesoamerica is this geographical area stretching from north of the Panama up to the desert of central Mexico. These Mesoamericans typically were polytheistic, which means that their gods possessed both male and female traits, and they had more than one god instead of the singular god. They demanded blood sacrifices of enemies taken in battle or ritual bloodletting. Their diets typically consisted of corn or maize. It was domesticated by 5000 BCE. That is before Common Era. They also developed a mathematics system, built huge monuments, and devised a calendar that accurately predicted eclipses and solstices, and that even priest astronomers used to direct planting and harvesting of crops. Most importantly, of our knowledge of these people is that they created the only known written language in the Western Hemisphere, which has caused researchers to have made a lot of progress in interpreting the inscriptions on their temples and on their pyramids. But the mother of Mesoamerican cultures were the Olmec civilization. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. Flourishing along the hot Gulf Coast of Mexico from about 1200 to about 400 BCE, before Common Era, the Olmec produced a large number of major works of art, architecture, pottery, and sculpture. They built aqueducts to transport water into their cities and irrigate their fields. They grew maize, squash, beans, and tomatoes. They also bred domesticated dogs, which, along with fish, provided protein into their diet. Although no one knows what happened to the Olmecs after about 500 BCE, in part because the jungle reclaimed many of their cities, their culture was they kind of disappear. Their culture was based upon that which the Mayan and the Aztecs later built. It was the Olmec who worshipped a rain god, a maize god, and the feathered serpent, which becomes incredibly important in future Parthenons of the Aztecs and the Mayan. So, after the decline of the Olmec, you have the rise of a city in the fertile central highlands of Mesoamerica. One of the largest populated centers in pre-Columbian America, and home to more than 100,000 people at its height in 500 CE, which is Common Era. Now, I will butcher some of these names. Do forgive me. Unfortunately, pronunciation is not my key here. So, this great city emerges. The city is called Teotihuacan. Okay. It's located about 30 miles northeast of modern-day Mexico City. Large-scale agriculture and the resultant abundance of food allowed time for the people to develop special trades and skills other than farming. Builders constructed over 2,200 apartment compounds for multiple families, as well as hundreds of temples. Among these were the pyramids of the sun, which is about 200 feet high, and the pyramid of the moon, which is about 150 feet high. You also have, as I mentioned before, of the serpent god, you have near the temple of the feathered serpent. Graves have been uncovered that suggest human sacrifice for religion purpose. So you can see how the Olmec religion eventually influenced the way the Mayans practiced as well. So the Mayans were the ones who built the one Mesoamerican culture that had strong ties to this city. Their architectural and mathematical contributions are ginormously significant, flourishing from roughly 2000 BCE to 900 CE, which is before Common Era to Common Era. I'm going to finish this in part 2 to make sure I have enough time.